All right. Shalom, family. It's your brother Kanaiba coming at you once again with this video titled Bread and Circuses, Part 2, The Prelude. Okay. So, as you know, I already did a video titled Bread and Circuses, right? In which I was basically breaking down the distractions really leading up to the date 420 and everything that was supposed to transpire or what could have transpired. Okay. Dealing with, I believe it was called the Insurrection Act. Okay. Which was set for April the 20th, 420. Okay. So I already did a video based on bread and circuses. So this is going to be Bread and Circuses Part 2, the Prelude. Now, why do I say that? Because this particular video is going to be not so much a Part 1, but it's going to be a prelude to the next video I'm going to do after this one. Okay? And once we go through this, you're going to understand what I mean. Okay? Because what we're going to do is we're going to rewind about a week and a half. Okay? Because the day of June the 6th, that Friday, that whole weekend, we had bread and circuses. So we're actually going to go over what happened that whole weekend. And we're going to deal with that. Okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start out by defining what bread and circuses actually mean. We're going to deal with that phrase. And I believe that's how I started my first video that I did about bread and circuses. So we're going to do that with this one. We're going to start off with the definition of bread and circuses, and then we're going to go from there. Okay? So without further ado, let's actually get into it. Okay? All right, so here is some information on bread and circuses. And I used this particular slide on my last video about bread and circuses concerning the day, the 420. Okay, so here's the information, and it reads, it says bread and circuses refers to a superficial method of appeasement, particularly in the political sphere. It says where the populace is distracted from greater issues by providing them with material comforts like food and entertainment. Okay, and we're going to see this when we actually go over what transpired the weekend of June 6th. Okay, that whole weekend from June 6th, that Friday, all the way through that Monday, which is June 9th. We're going to touch on what the distractions were. And you even had distractions within distractions throughout that weekend. Okay, but we're going to get into it. But the article continues. It says the phrase originates from the Roman poet Juvenal, who used it to criticize the Roman Empire's practice of distracting citizens with free food and spectacles, thereby preventing them from demanding better governance or engaging in civil or civic life. Okay, so there's your distraction, or there's your definition, rather. And the definition, in a nutshell, it just means distraction. That's what bread and circuses refers to. It refers to distractions. Okay. So let's go back. Let's go back to June the 6th. Okay. June the 6th, which was the weekend of that Friday. June the 6th. What was the first distraction? Well, let's take a look. And here's the first distraction. On June 6th, Lil Wayne dropped the Carter 6. Okay. Now, June 6th, June is the 6th month. So June 6th is already 6-6. And then he dropped on that day, he dropped the Carter 6. So this is really just an allusion to 666. Okay, that's pretty blatant. That's pretty clear. Okay, so again, this is in reference to 666. Okay, we all pretty much know what Lil Wayne been on for the longest. But this was the first distraction that happened on June the 6th. Okay, and I believe he dropped this on midnight, June 6th. Okay, so this was literally the first distraction. Okay. But what happened next? What happened next the same day? Because again, I told you these are distractions within distractions. Okay. This distraction, the Carter 6, was a distraction from an even bigger distraction. What was it? Let's take a look. So here's an article from ABC News, and it reads, it says June 6th, around 3 p.m. local time, a crowd begins gathering in the downtown fashion district after ICE agents show up at an apparel manufacturing business. Aerial footage taken by ABC News Los Angeles station KABC shows what appears to be ICE agents loading two white passenger vehicles with people in handcuffs. As the vehicles leave the apparel business, protesters try unsuccessfully to stop them, including one individual who is seen lying down in the path of one of the cars. So, what else happened on June 6th was basically these current Los Angeles riots that happened because of these ICE agents and what they did. This was the jump start of the whole thing that transpired that weekend. Okay, and that very same day, Lil Wayne dropped the Carter 6. That Carter 6 was supposed to be a distraction for this event. This event with the ICE agents is a distraction for something even bigger. Okay, which this video that I'm doing is a prelude to that even bigger event. Okay, I'm sorry for sounding confusing, but it is what it is. Okay, and you'll understand what I'm saying later on, especially when I drop the next video after this one. Okay, but anyway, let's move forward now. Let's move forward and let's see what happened the very next day on June 7th. Okay, well, before we even do that, I believe there's a little more to read about June 6th. Okay, let's scroll over here. And it says, several hours later, a large group of protesters gathered outside the Edward R. Roybal Federal Building and U.S. Courthouse downtown, calling for an end to immigration raids in the city. Video footage shows protesters vandalizing the building, heckling police, and throwing bottles and other objects at officers who used shields to protect themselves. Police in riot gear are seen confronting protesters with batons and what appeared to be tear gas launchers. Okay, so all of this is what transpired on June 6th, starting on June 6th, rather. Okay, let's move forward with the article here. At 10 p.m., the LAPD posts a message on social media saying an unlawful assembly has been declared for the area. around the downtown federal building and advises protesters and others to leave the area. So there you have it for June 6th. Okay. Now, looking at this from a three-dimensional perspective. Okay. June 6th. Okay. June is the 6th month. Then this happened on the 6th day. So that's 6-6, or what? 66. The number 66 represents what? The so-called bull god, the horned god Molech. Okay, when you type in Molech, Molloch, I believe. When you type that in the gematria calculator, I believe it comes out to 66. Okay, that number 66 represents Molech. Okay, which is the so-called bull god, right? Which represents what? The masculine principle. And that's very important. Don't forget I said that. That's very important. Okay, because this thing is esoteric. Everything that transpired this weekend. Okay, so now let's move forward. So now this puts us at June 7th, the next day, which was that Saturday. Very important. Okay. And it reads, it says later, Mayor Bass said that there were no ICE raids in Paramount or anywhere else in Los Angeles County on Saturday. She said the building in Paramount that protesters gathered near was being used as a staging area for federal resources. Okay, so now let's move forward with June 7th. Watch this. And it reads, around 6 p.m., Trump signed a presidential memorandum authorizing the deployment of 2,000 National Guard members to Los Angeles, saying it is necessary to address the lawlessness in Los Angeles. Bass and Newsom immediately object to the president's decision, saying it would only inflame tensions. And it did. Okay, it really did. So June 7th at 6 p.m., around 6 p.m., okay, and notice that the play on numbers, this was June the 7th, 6-7. And this happened around 6 p.m., 7-6. And this is on Saturday. The number 76 represents Saturn. Okay, that's all this is going into. And really, let me not jump the gun. Okay, I got a couple of videos that's pretty much going to stem from this one. But yes. Okay, that's why you have that 7-6, 6-7, all that's dealing with Saturn. Okay, but this particular day, the next day on June 7th, this is when Donald Trump authorized 2,000 National Guard members to go to Los Angeles. And they did. Okay, and that's when things really intensified. Okay, that Saturday. Right? So, on this day, June 7th, you have the National Guard that was deployed to Los Angeles. What else was going on this same day, on June 7th? Well, let's move forward and let's see. Watch this. Because that same day, you had the WWE Money in the Bank. See that? Look at this promotional poster. It's Mr. John Cena, of course, with his mantra, the last time is now. Okay, and this is Money in the Bank. It was held on June 7th, that's Saturday. And look at the location. It was also in Los Angeles. And you mean to tell me this is not bread and circuses? This event was not meant to be a distraction from the riots that was going on in LA? Really? Come on now. And the riots in LA, even that is a distraction for something even bigger. That's why this is the prelude. Okay, but yes, this is bread and circuses, ladies and gentlemen. We already read what the definition of bread and circuses is. It's basically you give the populace basically either food or entertainment to distract them from bigger things that's happening. This is a form of entertainment to distract the people in LA from the riots that's going on. All of this was planned. Okay, but now let's move forward. Okay, what is this going to put us at? This is going to put us at June the 8th, which is the next day, that Sunday. Okay, now what was going on Sunday? What big event? Now, this particular event, I will admit, was not in LA, but it's still a big event to distract people. Okay, what am I referring to? I'm referring to Game 2 of the NBA Finals. So, in the midst of everything that's going on in Los Angeles, okay, June 6th and June 7th was already accounted for with distractions. So we needed a distraction for what? For Sunday, June the 8th. What was that distraction? Oh, the NBA Finals, Game 2. Game 2 happened on that Sunday. Of course, between the Oklahoma City Thunder and the Indiana Pacers. Okay. And it's really very telling. I mean, I just peeped this, but again, when you look at things with a spiritual eye, it's just so obvious. Even the fact that for the Indiana Pacers, they got number 33 out front in this promotional poster. Okay. That's very telling. Okay. And what the number that's showing, the other number that's showing for Indiana is number 43. 4 plus 3 equals 7. Then out front for the Thunder, you have number 7. It's okay. I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole. Okay, but yes, this was the distraction for Sunday. Okay, so now that we've covered Sunday's distraction, Sunday's bread and circuses, that puts us at June the 9th, the next day, June the 9th, which was that Monday. Now, mind you, June the 9th, June is what? The 6th month. So you have the 6th month, 9th day, 6-9. The number 69 represents what? As above, so below. Hermetic principles. Okay? And Hermeticism is something that's venerated heavily within Hollywood, within the craft. Which is why the next event had to happen on this Monday. But before we get into that event, let's go back to our article from ABC. And let's see what transpired on June the 9th. Okay? And it reads, it says, U.S. military officials confirmed that 700 members of the 2nd Battalion, 7th Marines at 29 Palms, California, are being deployed to Los Angeles. So on June the 9th, this is when the Marines were actually sent to California, sent to LA for the riots. Okay. You know, when the Marines get involved, now things are really getting real because they don't play. Okay, but this is the major event that happened on June the 9th. Okay. This is what happened June the 9th in LA. Okay. So now, this was actually a distraction too. But again, you have distractions within distractions. So what was the other distraction for this distraction? Okay. To distract us from the Marines that were sent to LA. Remember, in the last slide, I talked about an event that took place that was based in Hermeticism. As above, so below. Okay, what is that event that took place that was a distraction? I'm talking about none other than the 2025 BET Awards. Now, just looking at this promotional poster, it really does it for me. Okay. Again, there's a reason why the BET Awards had to happen on June 9th. It represents as above, so below. Hermetic principles. Okay. The few things that I actually saw from the BET Awards, I saw that it looked like the colors white and black were a theme in this particular awards. Okay. Because again, that's dealing with opposites. Hermetic principles. As above, so below. Okay. And now, looking at where it took place. Okay. Looking at where it took place at the Peacock Theater. Now, the peacock is a symbol for the so-called mother goddess. Okay, the so-called mother goddess Juno. And again, we are in the month of June, right? The month of June is named after Juno. Okay. Now, remember I told y'all to remember something when I started this. Remember I told y'all that this all began on June the 6th. June the 6th is what? 6-6. And remember I said that represents Molech, which represents what? The masculine principle. That was on the 6th. Now you go to the opposite of that, which is the 9th, as above, so below. Now you're dealing with the mother goddess, the feminine principle. This is Juno. See how they did that? That is insane. Okay, that's why this had to take place at the Peacock Theater in veneration of Juno. Okay, now allow me to really blow you away, to show you that all of this is planned, and this is a distraction for the riots that's happening in LA. And those riots are going to be used for something, okay? Because again, the BET Awards is happening in LA at the Peacock Theater. But I want you to look at the address, okay? Look at the address, please. What is the address? The address is 777 Chickhearn Court, Los Angeles, California, 90015. Now, this is what I want to deal with, okay? The address, okay, it's in LA, and the address number is 777. Do you realize that the number 777 is code, or it represents the phrase order out of chaos? That's what 777 represents. That lets me know right there that these BET Awards, they're hip. They know what's going on. They know these BET Awards is a distraction for the riots in LA, because the riots in LA, that's your order out of chaos. What's going on in LA, those riots, is going to be used for something bigger. They're going to bring some type of order out of that chaos. That's why the BET Awards had to be held at the Peacock Theater, which is in LA, and the address number of the Peacock Theater is 777. They already know that, okay, in LA, we're bringing order out of chaos. Okay. But let me just stop talking, because a lot of times y'all think I be reaching. Y'all really think I be capping when I say this stuff. Okay. Allow me to prove what I'm saying. Okay. Let's go to an article that I've used in many of past videos that I've done concerning the number 7. We're going to go back to this article and I'm going to prove what I'm saying. Okay, let's take a look. All right, so I've pulled information from this article many a times, but I haven't dealt with this part of the article much. Okay, dealing with the number 777. Okay, I've dealt with the number 7. I've dealt with the number 77 from this article, but now we're going to deal with the number 777. Okay, and as you see, it reads the number 777, order out of chaos. Again, could be a reference to another book by Aleister Crowley, book 777. Now, we know he already had book 77, which also was known as what? Liber Eyes. Okay, again, this is why the number 77 is linked to what? Do as thou wilt. Okay, or true to 7. Okay, true to self is true to 7. Right? But now we're dealing with 777. This represents order out of chaos. Going back to Aleister Crowley. Order out of chaos. Let's continue with the article. Watch this. However, most believe it is code for order out of chaos, which is 777 in Jewish gematria. It says, and which is an important motto for the Scottish rite of Freemasonry, or Do Ab Kao. Okay, and as we see here, they have a screenshot of the Jewish gematria. They typed in order out of chaos, and sure enough, it comes up to what? 777. Okay, this is a checkmate. That number 777 represents order out of chaos. Okay, now you not to digress too much, but it makes you wonder why the number 777 is so prominent within casinos. Something for you to think about. But to get back on topic, right? Again, now this really proves my point as to why the BET Awards had to take place at the Peacock Theater in Los Angeles, because the street number, the street address for the Peacock Theater is 777. That represents order out of chaos. That's why the BET Awards happened in LA at that place. Because what was the chaos that was going on in LA? It was the riots that started due to what? The ICE officers and what they did on June 6th. That's why I said that whole weekend from June 6th, that Friday, all the way to June 9th, that Monday, was bread and circuses. Okay, so again, all of that happened was to distract us from something even bigger. That's what this is the prelude to. Okay, but with this being said, do not marvel if they use these riots and everything that happened that particular weekend with ICE and the National Guard and the Marines and the riots. Do not marvel if they use this event to create that particular chaos to create some type of order that they want to enforce on the populace. Do not marvel if this happens, because it's really clear to me that that's what they're doing, especially with this information in the BET Awards. That was the icing on the cake. Okay. But anyway, that's going to bring us to the end of this video. And again, the title of this video It's Bread and Circuses Part 2, the Prelude. Okay, so we went over the weekend of June the 6th, that Friday, and all of the distractions that actually happened from that Friday, June the 6th, through that Monday, June the 9th. Okay, the 6th and the 9th. Put that together again. That's 6-9, as above, so below. Dealing with Hermetic principles. That whole weekend was really esoteric. It was really a ritual that was being played out. And I got a video on that coming down the pike too. Okay, we really gonna get into that, right? Because what happened in LA was one big ritual. Okay, that they're going to use to bring order out of chaos. Okay, and that's my critique. Okay. But yeah, that was your Bread and Circuses, starting with Lil Wayne and his release of the Carter 6. Okay, from the National Guard being deployed the next day. Okay, your Money in the Bank the next day. Then going on to the NBA Finals the very next day after that. Okay. Then the next day after that, you had the 700 Marines that was deployed to LA. And that same day, what did you have? You had the BET Awards that was held at the Peacock Center, address 777. Okay. Or the Peacock Theater, which was the address was 777. Okay, and again, that number 777 represents order out of chaos, letting you know what that whole weekend was about. Okay, so again, we got to really watch these things with a spiritual eye and know when they're trying to distract us from something. Because like I said, this video is a prelude to my very next video. Okay. In my next video, you're going to understand what they were trying to distract us from. Because, again, it ended with that June the 9th, that Monday. And the very next day, June the 10th, that's where we're going to start my next video with. What happened? What major event happened in the sky? Spoiler alert. But with that, and as always, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to the Most High Yahweh, which is the name of the Heavenly Father, and I do so by Hashem, which means in the name of Yahweh Shai, which is the name of the only begotten Son of the Heavenly Father, whom the world knows as Jesus Christ. And I want to thank all you brothers and sisters for tuning in. I hope this video was informative and edifying. And until next time, Shalom, family.